Junior Mining Weekly, a StockPulse.com production, where we track the action of the individual equities markets within the commodity sector. Today's show is sponsored by Amex Exploration. Amex trades as AMX on the Toronto Venture Exchange and has made multiple high-grade gold discoveries in the Abitibi-Greenstone Gold Belt in Quebec. The property is surrounded by multiple producing gold mines and located on a year-round road next to the town of Normetal. Amex is in the middle of a fully funded 100,000-meter drill program aimed at building ounces on at least 3 gold zones while exploring for more zones along more than 15 kilometers of regional faults. Drilling is year-round and started in January 2020. There are 3 drills turning on the property, making for ample news flow throughout the year. Amex is managed by seasoned mine finders and financiers, all of whom have invested their own money in the company. Okay, let's run through it. 2019, I've got Allan Berry of the Allan Berry Reports, although the majority of his commentary is hosted here on the Stock Pulse, and we certainly appreciate that. All right, Al, what's hitting the radar here 2019? What's the highlight reel look like?
Yeah, well, 2019 year in review has some really good highlights that I think are going to speak well for our going forward, which we'll touch on after we do the year in review. One of those is the one that I think is probably number one is the gold breakout. Since we topped out in 2011 at 1900, let's say, and it started to correct from late 2013 until earlier this year, the roof on the price of gold was about 1,350, 65, somewhere in there. And it must have hit that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times that it tried to get, it got to that level and broke down each time. What happened this year was around midway through the year, all of a sudden gold started to trade a much better. Seems to coincide with when they started the quantitative easing, although they don't want to call it QE. They moved from quantitative tightening, where they had sold off a lot of their balance sheet and started to build it up again. Gold started to get stronger, which makes sense. I think that people are starting to realize that the U.S. dollar is overcooked, and they're looking for some places to put their money that is safer. And if you can't put it in the U.S. dollar or U.S. debt, I guess another place might be gold, which helped us to get almost to 1,600 again. And then we kind of then backed off a little bit. But what was really encouraging, considering that we had gone through such a long period of, fits and starts, that when it pulled back off of that, let's say 1550 range, it still stayed above 1,500. Recently, it's had a couple of good bottoms set in, and now we have a breakout happening where it's back up above 1,500 again. This is crucial for me because, where the price of gold goes, so goes the juniors, so goes other metals, and this is giving us a very strong bullish indicator that we're heading into a much better trend going forward for all of those things. So that was one of the major factors of why I'm going to be so bullish as we talk about 2020. The other was that the mergers and acquisitions really picked up this year and coincided with the price of gold breaking out. We had big mergers and acquisitions with Newmont and Gold Corp. I think there might be a little bit of sticker shock and buyer's remorse of Newmont when they got to look closer at the assets of Gold Corp, and I think that that wasn't the greatest of prices to pay for them. But if you see gold going a lot higher, it'll all work out in the end, and Newmont needs to find more ounces because they're not that good at exploration, but I think they might have overpaid for that asset. Barrick Gold and Rand Gold was another of the big takeovers. What I liked about that is that Rand Gold's top guy, he's really focused on the bottom line, growing profits, not just growing the resources of gold that they have in their portfolio. He wants to make money off of that. Now, if I was advising the company, which of course I'm not, I would have dropped the Barrick name completely. And I know people might say, well, how can you do that? Barrick's one of the major mining companies in the world. Yes, they are. And they also have a reputation for being one of the culprits that caused us so much pain in the gold market in the 1990s. It was there. It wasn't some grand conspiracy by central bankers and other clandestine groups that were keeping the price of gold down in the 1990s. It was purely the forward selling of gold by the major mining companies led by Barrick Gold. The reason that that others followed suit was because they got rewarded for it. And Barrick got rewarded for it in the 1990s, but throughout the entire 2001 to 2011, and even to this day, they've paid the price of that reputation. They have the reputation of the ones who caused all the pain, and that's why they are always a laggard of their peers. That's why I would have got rid of the Barrick name completely and just went with Randgold and let Bristow run the whole thing and turn the balance sheet around and get rid of that anchor on the stock. But they instead decided to call it Barrick Randgold or something like that and keep the Barrick name. I still don't understand that. But of the majors, and I'm really not a majors kind of guy, I think most of them are pretty poorly run and they don't do a great job at exploration. But I would have to lean towards the Barrick Randgold being a better of the two deals. Next, what was also encouraging was that this wasn't just a majors buying other majors kind of a M&A uptick. You also had the middle tiers getting involved with Kirkland Lake buying out or in the process of buying out Detour Gold. Now that one hasn't been well received, and I can kind of understand why it hasn't been well received. Kirkland Lake carries a pretty serious premium to its peers and has been a tremendous performer because of their Fosterville mine in Australia. And what makes that one so great is that it's a low-cost, high-grade operation. So that means there's big margins. And when you have big margins, you get a premium in your stock price. And with Detour, it's a large tonnage, low grade operation, so much tighter margins. But it looks like, if gold keeps going the way it is and Kirkland Lake can get in there and turn around the operations of Detour, up the production. Eric Sprott is a big shareholder of Kirkland Lake, and initially he was kind of humming and hawing about the deal, but it sounds like now he's looked into it closer and feels like, that this will be good for the long haul. And I agree. I think it will be good for the long haul. But I'm a premium kind of guy. I like it when there's things like the Nevada premium where companies find something or develop something in Nevada. They get a big premium on their stock, or a Kirkland Lake. But we'll see. Their argument is it will look after the next 20 years of production for the company. So, we'll see how much of the premium for high margin production they give back. In the middle tiers, Equinox and Leah Gold merged, which was much better received. Since the merger, Equinox is the one that I follow the closest. I picked it about a year ago. It's doubled since then. And just since this deal was announced, they're up about 25%. So, that's only that the ink hasn't even dried on the announcement of those two merging. But it's both of them are trading at a premium. So that one was much better received. Another thing that I forgot in the notes was that even though all these good things are happening, juniors are still at multi-year lows. And I think that's where the big opportunity is, because these majors and big companies, they need more discoveries and new production because they're falling flat on that end of the business, which is what brings up the next topic, which is Eric Sprott has been on a just a buying frenzy. In the last 6 months, he's bought over close to $250 million worth of private placements in juniors. So there's one of the most successful investors in this space, in the history of this space. And he's taking his money and putting it where his mouth is, and he's taking advantage of these tremendously cheap valuations in juniors. And I think that's what other investors should be doing. And later on, we've got a bunch of picks for people to talk about the juniors that I think will outperform their peers.
Okay, before we get to some of your picks here, let's get an Allan Berry 2020 outlook. Gold seems to be in a pretty good place here. How do you see it?
The outlook 2020, I think, I laid the groundwork for why I think the outlook, the 2020 will be a good, very strong year for gold. I think this year you'll see gold make a couple of big runs throughout the year. The first big run, I think we're in the midst of it starting. One of those things is that you look at the trends with gold going over that ceiling. You look at the M&A, you look at Sprott getting active. All of this is related to the weakness in the supply chain of gold. And while there's a weakness in the supply chain of gold, we have no shortage of people wanting to buy it. The central bankers, multiple central bankers are buying it again. Chinese, India are buying it again. And this buying pressure is not, the supply chain is not strong enough to feed that strength of the buying. And I think that combination will send us much higher. A couple of key trends that I look for in the end of the year is the Santa Claus rally. We've had a very strong Santa Claus rally for the price of gold. And what that indicates is that we're going to have a strong start to the January. And if you get a strong first week of January, it often plays itself out for the rest of January. And in technical analysis, you call that the January effect. I try to get ahead of the trends, and I see that we're shaping up for the Santa Claus rally is suggesting we'll have a good early January and a good January effect that should help us perform well throughout the year, with a couple of big runs that really catch a lot of investors' attention. Now, the play that's been slow to join that party is silver. And usually they run pretty much in tandem. And yes, silver has gotten stronger, but not, if gold goes up 2%, it should go up 4 or 5%. It just hasn't done that. It's pretty much tracked the price of gold. So I think there's a lot of catch up to happen in the price of silver. And it's got an extra advantage other than as a hedge against currencies and other things like that. It also has a lot of industrial usage. And so that combination, I think we've got a really strong market coming for silver. Now, part of the problem with silver is finding good silver exploration and developments, because most of it comes as a byproduct of mining something else, like in gold or copper or stuff like that, zinc, lead, that sort of stuff. So it's not easy to sort of find good silver plays, but I'm always on the hunt and make sure to look for some good ones. I got a couple that have some exposure to silver later. And then another big play, I think, is the copper and the zinc and some of the other base metals. I don't think that the global economy is as negative as people think it is. You know, right now, it's like America is the only kid in town, and the rest are, weak sisters. And I think that some of the keys that I look for to gauge how the global economy is, I look at shipping rates and I look at shipping stocks. And the shipping rates are going up and the shipping stocks are going up. That tells me you can, get rid of all the noise, and that's the signal. And the signal says to me that the global economy is stronger than people are giving it credit for. And copper and zinc have a very similar long-term supply and demand story as gold and silver. And so I'm bullish on that. And again, I've got a couple picks that I think will give us good exposure to those metals. So yeah, I think there's going to be some winners and losers in 2020. I'm not a big fan of the overall, Wall Street stock market. I think you could be looking for some of those bearish ETFs. I think it's priced for perfection, and I don't like buying price for perfection. I like selling it, and I'd prefer to be priced for disaster, and that's where a lot of these smaller mining stocks are, and that's why I'm kind of banging the drum so hard. I mean, we don't have a shortage of picks here, so maybe we should get onto some of those.
Okay, well, let's get to some of these picks here. Your top copper exploration play, Kintavar Resources. Kirill Mugerman's the CEO there. Now, you talked to him on our Hidden Treasures episode a couple of weeks back. Run through this one and why you like it.
Well, it's got a couple of factors of why I really like it, Rob. One is that I'm always on the hunt for young talent in the business. And Kirill Mugerman, one of the key indicators of talent is the enthusiasm for their data and the work that they're doing. And that's what you get out of Kirill, because he's got a very strong project. It's a copper-focused project. It's got great infrastructure. It's not expensive. They got lots of money. It's got a dirt cheap valuation. And they've been drilling, and they've got a bunch of results to come out. I'd highly recommend people look at our Hidden Treasure segment that we did on Kintavar, because Kirill, he did a great job of explaining the company, and his enthusiasm for the project comes out quite clearly when he talks about it. And so yeah, Kintavar is one that I like a lot as a copper exploration play.
Okay, top zinc exploration play, Fireweed Zinc. Brandon McDonald runs the show over there. I know you like this one. Run through it and why.
Brandon is someone I've known for a couple of years, and he's again one of these young talents that I think have a long future in the business. And what's key to his company right now is their zinc play in the Yukon. Brandon's from the Yukon, and so he grew up there. He knows a lot of the people there, which is always an advantage. And he's got himself a project that, there's a saying in the business that oftentimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 groups to go into a project, dump it, and then, the fifth guy is the one who finds it. He's sort of that fifth guy indicator. They've done some really good work to really look at it from different angles. And they have, and I think they've unlocked some really special stuff. It's not a slam dunk. They do have some access issues. It's far away from ports and stuff like that, which will be needed. But those challenges oftentimes gives you a good opportunity. I think that with the economics of what they're finding, I think that they'll be able to overcome those issues. And so this is one that tracks the price of zinc, and then gives you some extra kickers when, it's like silver and gold. When zinc goes up, let's say 3%, these guys will go up maybe 10%. So it gives you some real torque to the movement and the price of zinc. And that's why I like Fireweed for that torque. I also like it for Brandon's work and the quality of the project, and especially what they've really been recently been finding in the last couple months as we started covering them, some nice high-grade material close to surface that looks quite spectacular.
And let's move on here to low-cost producer plays. Mag Silva and Orla Mining hit the mark here.
There you go, Rob. That's sort of the guts of what I'm always looking for, is low-cost production. If I'm going to buy a producer, there's a couple things I want. I either want to find one that's going to be a low-cost producer, or I find them that I think that they can grow with the checkbook and the drill bit. So I have some picks on that front later, but on the low-cost producer, I've got Mag Silver. This 2020, they will become a producer of silver from their project in the state of Zacatecas, which is where I live in Mexico. It's one of the most prolific silver districts in the world. Over 10% of the world's silver ever produced has come from the state of Zacatecas. They're the next new mining company in the state of Zacatecas. And when they start producing, they will be the lowest cost producer of silver in the world. So that's one that I like on the low cost producer side of things. Orla, OLA, is another low cost producer. And guess where they're located, Rob? Also in the state of Zacatecas, which is where, again, where I live and where my advanced gold is focused. Again, it's a low-cost production. They will be the 7th lowest cost producer of gold in the world. Orla is got a great future ahead of it. Low-cost producers, they always get a premium, and these two, I think, are ones that are less risky than everything else I cover, with very good performance potential.
And let's move on here to the turnaround play, which you gave it away here on the Hidden Treasures with Rob McEwen, but I know you expect big things out of McEwen Mining.
There's another one we recently did a Hidden Treasures show on, and yes, I think what makes them a Hidden Treasure show, or Hidden Treasure, is that they've been beaten down because of a lot of sort of difficulties that they've had at their mines this year. And I think that they've now got on top of all those problems and are turning the corner. And if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, go check out our Hidden Treasures. And I did a great interview, almost an hour talk with Rob McEwen, and he explained how they went through all these problems, the work that they've done to rectify those problems, and the work that's ahead of them that could, be explosive growth potential. They're going to be growing a lot by the drill bit, and that's from a project they have in Nevada and also one in Ontario. I'm really optimistic about potential for success with a turnaround, with gold getting stronger, and with success with the drill bit. I think MUX is one that people definitely want to be getting involved with.
And speaking of success with the drill bit here, we'll call this next segment Building Production with Drill and Checkbook.
Yeah, you can either grow it from the drill bit or the checkbook, and some are better with the drill bit and checkbook than others. Probably one of the most talented guys I know in the business is Ewan Downey at Premier Gold, PG. I think that he buys very well with the checkbook, buys projects that have a lot of upside potential with drilling success, then goes in and has that drilling success. The stock has not really done great things as the price of gold's gone up, but I think that it's been suffering somewhat from tax loss selling. They've got $75 million in the bank. They've got room to buy more. They got room to grow more with the drill bit. PG is a must follow for people in the business. Another one is the one I just talked about, McEwen Mining, MUX. It falls into two categories, a turnaround play, and also they can grow with the drill bit. Mostly it will be growth with the drill bit, not so much with the checkbook, although if anybody needs to raise money in this business, Rob McEwen can raise it in a matter of days. The last raise they did was $50 million. They announced it on a Wednesday. They closed it on a Friday. The Friday following the Wednesday that they announced it, they put $50 million in their treasury. So if he sees something that is worth buying, he can buy it. But I think the most of their growth will be with the drill bit. Another one that's in the drill bit and checkbook category is Equinox. Equinox is currently going through a merger, as I mentioned earlier, with Leah Gold. It's run by Ross Beatty. Ross said that he sees a big bull market for gold coming, and he wants to build this into the biggest gold company he can as fast as he can to take advantage of that. And I think he will do that. I've been following the company for about a year now. It's doubled in that time frame, and it wouldn't shock me to see it double again in 2020.
Okay, let's talk black gold here and give an oil play out. Gran Tierra, that's GTE. Why do you like this one?
Yeah, oil is something that I don't really follow that closely most of the time. And when oil companies kind of slap me in the face and come to my attention, they've often done very well after that point. We recently picked up Gran Tierra, GTE, and since then it's starting to turn around. The oil stocks haven't been really loved that much. That's sort of when they come to my attention, is not when they're on the highs, it's when they've been beaten down. And this one's been beaten down, but they've got a plan moving forward. They got the cash to execute on that plan. They're spending $200 million in growing the balance sheet this year. And I like what I see in that chart and in the developments. GTE is my number one oil play at this point in time. But we'll keep looking for them, Rob. You never know, some other oil stock might come and slap me in the face any day.
And I know you have quite a list of some golden explorers, we'll call them here. Quite a list. I'll let you rip through them here. Dios Resources starts it.
Dios Resources is a gold exploration company in Quebec. It's run by a very good explorationist that I've known since my days exploring for diamonds. Marie Josie is a very talented geologist. I've looked really closely into the company recently. I like where I see them drilling. I see some good structural intersections. I also see some of their best surface sampling results coming from those structural intersections. They're about to start drilling in those sections. This is a dirt cheap junior that if they have any kind of success, 10x your money is possible.
And Sokoman Minerals here up, SIC on the venture.
SIC is a company I've been following for a while now. They've got a new project in Newfoundland. They're hitting some high grade gold. They're doing some analysis now that I think is going to help them to understand how that gold performs at depth. And if they get a handle on that, there could be some explosive growth in that stock. So I like high grade. I like in places where they can drill year round. It keeps the cost down. SIC falls into that category.
And a new sponsor of ours, Kelly Malcolm, runs the VPX over there at Amex Exploration, AMX on the venture.
Yeah, Amex has been a super performer for me. I picked them at 50 cents about a year ago. They've been having really good success with the drilling. Today they traded up to $1.50, so it's been a triple since I picked it. But even at a triple, it still has a below $100 million market valuation, and it would not shock me to see them have a $200 to $300 million market valuation this year. I love their project. It's in Quebec. They've got lots of money. They got drills on the property. They can drill year round. They got a great news flow, and this is one of my top gold exploration picks in the business.
Aston Bay here next, BAY on the venture.
BAY is down in Virginia looking for gold, and the projects that they're developing they came from Don Taylor. Don Taylor's been a serial success story in the mining business, having been found stuff and taken over a couple times. His last one was probably a 20x performer from the bottom till it got taken over, and now they're looking for gold in Virginia. They've done some early work, and the early work is pointing towards some very good stuff. They're going to start cranking up the drill rig soon, and I expect some really good performance out of them in the next 6 months or so.
And Arizona Silver up here, Greg Hahn, Mike Stark, AZS in the venture.
Yeah, I've been following these guys for about 6 months, and when I initially started following them, I was kind of less impressed with their game plan. They were wanting to drill a long strike on some veins that they have, and these kind of epithermal veins, where the home run is when you drill deeper and look for the boiling zone of the system. You can't really find that along strike. You got to go to depth. Now they've had success along strike, and now they're going to depth. And that's what I think is the key to unlocking great performance out of them. And so it's got a modest valuation. And if they find the boiling zone of that system, things could get very exciting very quickly.
And Apex Resources up here, APX on the venture.
APX is one that had some good success early because they found some veins that had some high grade gold. The high grade gold got everybody excited. The stock went parabolic, and then the results came back, and I thought the results were pretty good, to tell you the truth, from an early stage exploration, but the market certainly didn't. It's now done pretty much the round trip from cheap to parabolic to back to cheap. And I think I don't think you've heard the last of that project. They just got to do the work they got to roll up their sleeves and keep moving forward in the face of adversity. And I think they will. And the reason I do is because, high grade systems are not easy to find. And I think they have one. They just got to do more work to figure it out. So might as well look at it when it's got the cheap valuation and not the parabolic one. And this one's sort of fallen into our lap in that kind of scenario.
And one here in the Dominican, Precipitate Gold, PRG on the venture.
PRG is one I'd followed for a few years, and they were kind of these guys that would do a lot of surface exploration, but not a lot of drilling. And I think part of that was because of the situation with the mining ministry in the Dominican Republic, but they've really turned the corner because I'm starting to see a lot of projects that are getting their permits and getting drilling done. And we've covered a couple of them in the past, but this one really excites me because it's right beside one of Barrick's crown jewels, the Pueblo Viejo project in Dominican. It's literally right beside it. You can see the head frame from where their property is, and they're going to start drilling this prospect right beside a big mine, multi-million. I think it's over 20 million ounces at Pueblo Viejo, and it's in the same kind of rocks. They're looking for the same kind of target, and they get any sniffs that they're onto something like Pueblo Viejo, and I think you're going to see that one rock and roll. So another one investors want to keep an close eye on.
And moving on here, Sean Ryan, White Gold, WGO on the venture.
White Gold has a few different really good assets. They include their projects and Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan is a very talented explorationist. He's found a couple of mines up in the Yukon and that were bought and sold, bought and sold. So he's very talented at what he does, and he's a bit of a start of a serial entrepreneur with building and selling and trying to build again. And I think it looks like he's going to do it again with White Gold. They've got a few good properties, and they're hitting the road running on a few of them right from their early days. They're more of a summertime play, but if between the early part of the year and the springtime, if you can find them at cheap prices, I highly recommend you get a little bit of this one, because Sean has a way of having big success, and I think he's going to do it again with White Gold.
And moving on here to the Golden Triangle, Walter Coles Jr. I know you like this one. Should be summer drilling, but it ends up to be year-round drilling.
Skeena, yes. Their Skeena SKE is in the Golden Triangle. Usually suffers from that, the fact that they can't drill through the winter. This one, they can. They're using some innovative methods to keep drilling during the winter. What is most important about this project is where they're drilling. they're drilling into what created the mine and all the excitement around the Golden Triangle. The SK Creek mine was tremendously high grade, and it had to be back when it was in production because gold and silver were so much lower. Back then, if it wasn't over a half an ounce per ton, they pretty much couldn't process the material. And so that meant that they left a lot of it behind. And so these guys are now coming in and filling in the gaps. And it looks in the gaps like what they left behind is quite spectacular. So, good news flow on this one. Stock has been outperforming its peers in the Golden Triangle and really in the gold exploration space. And this is sort of one of the buck the trend kind of plays that I think you want to be playing. And I like it a lot. And I love that high grade gold, Rob, especially if you can drill it year round, which is what they can do.
And moving on here, Mike England over at BTU Metals, BTU on the venture.
Yeah, BTU is one that's just recently sort of turned the corner and really got people excited. They're out in Red Lake, and instead of looking for, that's why I kind of put them in the gold exploration space. They also could have fit into the copper and play area as well, because they're looking for a massive sulfides in Red Lake, which is well known for its high grade gold. So they got the prospects of gold, and they were looking for gold, but now they're finding massive sulfides, and with some pretty promising grades from their early drilling. They got a lot more drilling to do. These kind of systems are not easy to figure out, but what I see so far has me excited, and I like BTU a lot as a pick these days.
And moving on here, Integra Resources, pretty popular name, ITR in the venture.
Integra, this is sort of the second iteration of Integra. Same people involved as the one that had the big success in the past and then got bought out. And now they're trying to do it again. Last time it was more of a high tonnage, low grade. This one's high grade, which is always something that I like a lot. It's in the States, and it's in a place it's a good place where they can have good access, do a lot of work. And, proven team that's done it before. I think they're going to do it again. It's just a little bit of twist. Instead of the low grade, high tonnage, they're looking for high grade and less tonnage. But that can also mean high margins. So looking at Integra as one people got to keep an eye on as well.
And one of the better names in the business, certainly, GoGold Resources, GGD.
Yeah, GoGold. They got a good, interesting name. They're in Mexico. They're hitting on what looks like a big tonnage type project with. You don't often get this combination when you're in a big tonnage gold system. You're looking for under a gram kind of stuff. These guys are getting 2 or 3 times that kind of grade and some good widths to their drilling. So, this could be a high grade for a low or for a high tonnage. This could be a high grade as well, relative to the other high tonnage, low grade deposits out there. And so it's again sort of unique to its peers. I think that's why it's been doing pretty good, and I think it's got a lot more blue sky ahead of it in GGD.
And last one on the list is your own company, Advance Gold. You can only pick your own company if you've got something really good to talk about, and I think the news speaks for itself. So run down Advance Gold.
Well, we've recently had a lot of good performance in our stock. What caused that is on Christmas Eve, we announced that we had hit a thick intersection of sulfides on our first drilling into a large 1,000 by 500 meter induced polarization chargeability anomaly. And what's really exciting about what we found so far is that we now know that big anomaly was caused by the sulfide system below it, part of what is the anomaly. And we've been able to put the truth machine down there and find some good sized intersections of sulfides. And we're about 12 miles from a world-class VMS system in owned by Teck called San Nicolas. Years ago, Western Copper found it, and it was a fabulous winner. We're in world-class sized territory. Our anomaly is probably twice the size of San Nicolas, and now we know that anomaly is caused by sulfide. So, a lot of people in the community still understand what sulfide systems mean. They mean big, and they mean long lives, and they mean good profits. And so I'm not saying we've proven that, but hopefully more drilling will continue to go in the right trend. And even at today's valuation, we're up another 30% today. It still has a under $20 million valuation with assays pending. So keep a close eye on my company, Advanced Gold. We didn't, in this case, save the worst for last. I think we saved one of the better ones for last, Rob. But I'm a little biased.
All right, Al. Well, quite a list for our year-end shoppers are certainly looking in the new year to grab some of this value.
Rob, before we close,
yep.
There's one more asset I think that investors want to pay attention to is the StockPulse website. I've decided that I've been looking for a long time for a platform, a website that could, showcase my analysis, my research, my reporting, and what you've done at StockPulse is quite exciting, and it's just growing. You've got a new website being developed. And with the quality of the content, I think we're going to be able to create content where I go out and I look through the news to try to find what's important out there. And it's not just important for investors. The reason I do it is it's also important for me as a guy running a public company in this space. I need to know what my peers are doing. I need to know what people in the community are looking for. And so I kind of kill two birds with one stone. And StockPulse is going to be a place where people can come to find good quality content, good quality companies. And the reason that I've been wanting to do this for a number of years, Rob, and been looking for the right platform, is media like BNN, Business News Network in Canada, used to cover the junior exploration and development business very closely. For many years, I was on there multiple times per year. But then after 2011, they kind of dropped the junior market completely. So there's a void created in the media space. But at the same time as that happened, in the last 4 or 5 years, you've had a surge of blockchain and weed deals that has caused the brokerage house analysts in Vancouver and throughout Canada to stop coverage of the space as well. So there's a second void that used to cover this sector, which was not just the media, the BNNs of the world, but then you also had the brokerage house analysts, and they're not covering it any longer. So there's a real need for someone to come in and fill that void. With my experience, I can help create the content. You've got the platform. And over the last couple months, we picked a lot of really good companies. We talked about their news at crucially important times, and you can expect more of that from us in 2020.
Okay, we'll certainly appreciate that in-depth breakdown of 2019 from Allan Berry. And again, you can find a lot of Allan's commentary and a few writings here on the StockPulse.com. So if you're a fan of the information, please subscribe to the channel and share the broadcast. And we'll be back in 2020 for more informative CEO interactions and hopefully get you ahead in your portfolio. Happy New Year.